Okay, as the interim president for a little while, I will call the meeting to order and look for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Got a first,
Second.
got a second from Brent. All in favor, say, raise your hand. That'll work. Okay. Comments from the public. We don't have anybody that officially went through procedure to sign up for comments from the public, but I will allow one person to speak representing the group that I am looking at.
It's quick, super quick.
I like quick.
I'll go first. First of all, I want to thank you board members. Minus Mr. Brown, I was able to make contact with all of you. Our conversations went well. You listened, think, I have no issues at all with that. I'm thankful for being able to have that dialogue and feeling close enough that I knew you and having, your contact. And secondly, I would like, all the facts out there. I want you to please listen to the people in the front lines. And then I guess it's on you to do what you think is best for our kids, our school, our community. Okay, and that's where I want Janae about this. Yeah, I think it's an issue. So I think that's.
So I'm nominated because I'm the scheduler at the high school. And I want to start by saying this is not my first go at scheduling. I've worked at 4 high schools. I've done the schedule at every one of them, and they all have very complex things. Andover Central was probably the most complex I did because of their CAPS program. But I will say I've never run into an issue like I'm facing right now. Building the schedule itself is fine. It's built. Every teacher has a full schedule. The teachers are teaching what they're certified to be teaching in their department. The issue is loading the kids into the schedule, because what it does when you have classes offered in February at enrollment and then you drop those classes by the time you actually put the kids in the schedule. If it's a class that only had maybe 20 kids pick that class, it's not that hard. You're just fixing 20 kids or looking at 20 kids alternates, because we make them pick 4 alternates. So they pick plenty of alternates. The issue that we're having with eliminating this position is that 250 kids picked either the basic outdoor activities or the advanced outdoor activities. And so anybody who has done a high school schedule knows what a nightmare that is, because you have now 250 kids that aren't going to get the class that they asked for. But on top of that, we did build it and load the kids. And out of those 250, 177 weren't even able to get any of their 4 alternates. And that's because those alternates either don't fit or those already filled up with everybody else who picks those classes as their first choice or another alternate. And so those are now already filled. And so what we're looking at now from a counseling perspective is literally going through every kid one by one and looking at where those holes are and trying to just fill their schedule with a class. And it will unfortunately be classes that they did not choose. And the school year is almost over, as I'm sure we all know. So we don't have time to call them in to try to figure out what would they want. So now we're just guessing, which then leads into August being an issue of lines out our door with schedule changes and kids very upset because they are not going to understand why they got put in classes that they did not want. So from the scheduling perspective, that's the crunch of where we're at and what taking out a class that is by far our most popular elective class we offer does to us. So it's not all about me, it's about the kids. I'll do the more work. I want kids to enjoy school and be taking things that they are interested in. So thank you for being willing to listen.
Thank you. Recognitions, Jag K, Mr. Ward.
Okay. Student recognitions, we had Jag K attend nationals. We had some of our students place at nationals actually. And so we're gonna recognize those students here today. And thank you for being here. We've got Sophie Register, come on up. Sophie got fourth place in nationals with a promotional video. Very good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job.
Very good. Okay, you're gonna stay here because you're actually up here twice, so. Okay. You also were in a pair on prepared speaking. Seventh place. Is that right? Seventh place?
Promotional video.
Promotional.
And so.
Oh, that got,
Yeah, fourth place in the country. But their promotional video that they made about JAG. And then so
Prepared, that's
was in her
prepared
own
speaking.
individual category for prepared speaking, which was seventh place in the country.
so this is prepared speaking.
Yep.
And the other, Olivia? Was Olivia the other one? Okay, Olivia, okay, so Olivia, I'll get you up here in just a second. Okay, I apologize, I may have read that wrong, that's my fault. So seventh place in prepared speaking, correct? National, okay. Hold that. Olivia, come on up. Congratulations to you as well. Welcome. Here's your recognition coin. And let's get you two together. You did this together, did you not?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And this was the strongest showing at nationals for one school district, was that right? Has to be close.
But in the state of Kansas, we had the most delegates and we won first place in the state of Kansas this
Right.
year. So. And everybody that qualified for nationals placed in the top 10 at nationals all year, so.
From our district.
Yes.
Okay, the next three were in the creative decision-making category. We've got three of them we'll call up here. We'll call up Candace, Jaden, and Reagan to come on up and get your certificates. Congratulations. And collectively, you earned a ninth place in nationals, is that right? Okay, good. Well, here's your. And Reagan? Congratulations. Well done. Let's grab. Come on over here, we'll get a picture.
Here. Yeah.
Congratulations. Other tribe teacher, do you want to share any words?
Well, teacher of all of these young ladies, of all of our students in our program, but several I've had for the past few years, and they have worked extremely hard to make it to this point, not just this season of competition, but in years past, they've put in extra hours outside of school, in class. They have competed in different categories over the past few years, and last year, two of them in particular were one spot out for making it to nationals in their categories. And they both said to me in March last year, when it was all done, like, the goal is nationals this year or next year. And they did it. They beat through the local round, they made it through the regional round, and then they placed first in state round, and that's what got them to nationals. We spent a week in Salt Lake City, Utah, competing with hundreds of other students from around the country, and they represented Augusta extremely well at the highest professional level and our program, JAG-K, and I just could not be more excited and proud of them. So, thank you.
Congratulations, ladies. Well done.
Mr. Ward, we're gonna recognize the Augusta Recreation Commission, I understand. Is
I
that
did-
right?
I didn't know about this one until today.
Exactly right, Chairman. I'll be happy.
Mr. Steve Gillis is going to do something with the Augusta Recreation Commission.
So, ladies, my goodness. Yeah, it's just awesome. So, I'm Steve Gillis with the Augusta Recreation Commission. I'm one of the original board members. I've got with us Trevor Lockamy, who's also one of our board members, today. Metlink is with us as well, and then one of our members this evening, and Tim Warner, who's our recreation director. So if you have operational ideas, thoughts, comments, or feedback, man, get a hold of Clinton and talk to him about that. But we were here not too long ago to get in front of the board, and I wanted to say thank you at that time as we were looking at an additional mill, and I want to say thank you again. Y'all have hard jobs in balancing, and I thought the opening prayer was right on the money when you talk about the complexities and how complicated running the district is and the business of the district and your customer base is on first. And so I have a huge appreciation for your time and the efforts and the work you do. But we wanted to come forward tonight with Superintendent Board. I've gotten to know Matt pretty well, and your navigation of the district and then those special cost things that come into play. Think about, I don't know, Matt, in your first year, maybe COVID hit. Well, who knew how to navigate that, you know? And again, the complexities and the difficulties and challenges, all the things that arise from that. And decisions are hard to make, but they're made on the best for our community. And one of the decisions that y'all made, and that I mentioned the last time, was really being the driving force behind Robinson Elementary School transitioning into Robinson Community Center. That has been not beneficial in terms of just a decision by the leadership of Matt and this board, but for our community as well. We have our legs underneath us now. We're 2 years of operations. We're seeing youth programs redevelop, transition, and begin that we haven't had before. Fitness programs are starting, and we brought the community in. And that was a part of that, as well as Matt and some others from across the community participated in the strategic planning process so that we could drive a direction that fit what the community felt like was important initially in putting the Recreation Commission operations in play. So we feel good about where we're at. Wanted to come this evening with as many board members that were available and just say thank you again for allowing that to happen. Thank you to our board and to Clinton for having an opportunity to serve this community. The feedback we've been getting has been very positive. So just to make sure you all are hearing that, you may be hearing the more difficult things at times. But believe me, the overwhelming comments with the youth programs in particular that we've restarted with soccer and with flag football, overwhelmingly positive. So we wanted to say to Mr. Ward, a huge thank you and recognize you from an Augusta Recreation Commission perspective with this award that says, from the Augusta Recreation Commission, presented to Matt Ward, appreciation of your vision and leadership in bringing the Augusta Recreation Commission to life. From the Recreation Board of Directors and our staff, Matt, please. This community will feel the positive impacts of that decision for years and years and years to come. And from our youth to our seniors, in terms of all that gets served. Matt, we're very grateful for your leadership in making that. So, thank you. Yes, thank you, Ted.
Very nice. Thank you.
I appreciate the thought, but I haven't put this collected. This was, you all put my name on here, but certainly all of you as the first commissioners and director need to be on there and other people that supported the idea. So I just have to be a part. I'll think of this as I'm a part of that effort. So thank you.
Very good. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Angie with the motion. Second, Jim, all in favor, say aye. Aye. We're up to new business then. Bond update, Simpson Construction,
We've got Josh and Brian.
Josh and Brian.
Josh is from Simpson, as you know, Brian SPT.
All right. My last appointments here, turning it almost over to operations 100% now, so. I wanna go through this kind of systematically, so the first document I wanna go through is how the high school came in, and then this was our last major bid package, the only thing we have left is the tennis courts. Okay, so this is the document I wanna go over, it says attachment A at the top, it's the Guest High School GMP. The top paragraph is simply the hard work of this guy right here, all the plans, and specifications, and addendums that we used to formulate the guaranteed maximum price. And the base bid, construction cost for the high school came in $31,847,046. Okay, the direct construction cost, again, not soft costs, not that, we have a CM contingency that we're holding, again, not our money, $875,794, so we have $875,000 contingency, so a total base bid cost of $32,722,840. I'm gonna show you how this relates to the overall bond. Things can do very well. We picked up what we bought on some of the earlier packages. We did take 3 alternates, and that's what we're here tonight partially to discuss. And then we want to go back over to Ewolf on the alternates over there. So rooftop unit replacement as noted. So we have 24 units in the base bid that we're replacing already on the high school. 24 of the oldest units, the ones that need the most repair. This is the last 28 units at the high school. For 1065,833. So that's for 28 units. Alternate 2 is an add of 634,771. This is for the last bit of the roof that needed replaced at the high school. That's about 32,000 square foot of EPDM roof on the northeast side of the high school. And then the final is the new gym entrance, which is about 1,800 square feet. With all the trophy cases that lead into the gym there. So that was 675,583. Okay. So we broke that price out. So the total GMP, if all alternates were accepted, is $35,099,027. We do have 6 allowances left in that. Continue to work with Matt and Brooks will be up here in front of you talking about some of these, and Brian. There's wall graphics throughout, and whether these are painted graphics, whether these are vinyl graphics that go on. There's some wrestling room, there's one in the gym. We have 30,000 for that. We haven't defined exactly what the yet. Fabric 1 and fabric 2 are literally the cushions. We need to select the material. These are the cushions for the booths that go in the media center and the booths that go in the commons area. So it's a very minor item. This is a big one, rock excavation. This is for 3 different trades, and to keep it fair to the district, I didn't include it and overdo it and put money in their back pocket. I wanted them to do it as an allowance of $160,000. So this is for the dirt contractor, the concrete contractor, and the site utility contractor as they find rock, and they will. That wrestling area, we are going to have to cut in quite a bit of rock in that wrestling area. That's really slopes back to high school, and then there's some utilities and footing stuff to get in. Not knowing exactly what that was, this is for labor and material to handle that rock on a time and material basis that we track, and that will present students. The WV-1, that's a wall line material. It's actually a kind of a wood wall covering that's going in the auditorium. These come in 3x9 sheets. If you've seen the interior walls of this, it's very cool pattern. The reason I'm holding an allowance on it is I got a bid from one contractor. I'm still actually waiting for another, so I haven't released any numbers on this yet to see who's best. But he didn't quite know exactly how much material we needed with the waste, with that chevron pattern. You've seen it, it's got a lot of chevron patterns and it goes in 4 inches, comes back out. And so we just don't quite know how much waste. It's expensive material, as you can see. We don't want to charge the district too much or too little, so we both held that as an allowance. Interior and exterior signage. I did receive some good quotes on the exterior big stuff. I do truly now those roll. Unless we change the design of the Orioles, we got a big Oriole at the gym, we got a big Oriole at the CTE. So 300,000, still working through the signage of that. And then the final one, this is a very minor one, the steel mesh netting. This is just some protection over some lights, some kind of decorative protection over the lights that you go into the wing. Okay, which are 6, 5 by 10 very decorative lights. So
as these go up and down, what we typically do is we add and subtract from the 875, 794. So I'm hoping this covers all of our costs. What we do is just put money back into the contingency, which goes back to the district. That's how we typically get on. Other than that, this thing is hard bill. I won't spend time going through all the clarifications. But I do want to go down to, because I think these are very, the security system, the call for the law, the algorithm that like all of those bid packages. The emergency responder radio system, which go down about halfway through on the general clarifications. That's again, we don't know until we build the additions. Have to actually test the facility to make sure that responders, emergency responder billing, we get on the walkie talkies that transmits out of the building. We don't know that until we truly know that until we build the addition. So we don't have an actual system that goes in there that amplifies the radios yet. We have to, again, that way contingency item easily come. So we've got an allowance for some great pavers in there. Actually, not allowance. We still need to make sure that we like out the antique red carbon pavers out front because those are two nice accents from the gym and the main entry. So we'll kind of work through that as we build and shop drawings. Matt will see that. Yep, and SBT will see that. It include a PA system. Right now, there wasn't a PA system called for. Does not include equipment for the control room A113. That's going to be part of our FF package. I'm just specifying that. Interior and exterior signage, we talked about that. And then the GPM. And then this is inclusive. So remember when I came and I approved that gear of $262,000 for the high school, bought all that gear. That is in that 32,722. So that 262 number that I've already signed it for, and that's so when I write the change order to add this onto it, I'm going to take 262 off that 32,722, and that'll actually be the delta in cost. I just, to keep it simple, guys, that's where the high school came. Okay. Yeah.
On FF&E, I just don't quite still understand that. So it says bond our furnace. So does that mean it's coming out of capital outlay, or do we still have bond money set aside that it's coming out of? It's just not part of this.
We do, and I'll explain that when I get to the orange
Okay,
recap sheet.
sorry.
It absolutely, we do have set aside.
Sorry, thanks.
So the next sheet, really, so that's the high school GMP. Does anybody have any questions? Really, what you want to know is how it relates to this sheet right here. This is the overall bond cap. Again, there's pages behind this that break down the numbers in detail. This is just the overall cover sheet of that. And so if you look at the right-hand side, again, the actual bond costs, you have the high school, middle school, Garfield, Ewald, and Lincoln. The last four have already all been bid. Now we're just talking about that top number of the high school. And when you see 38,802, 840, okay, if you go back to this sheet and you're just seeing 32,722, the difference is the $1,080,000 for the tennis. So when you look at this is just for the high school that doesn't have a tennis court thing. When we look at the bond recap sheet, that's the difference. Do the math, it's exactly $1,080,000 difference. So the recap sheet still has that. We still have to sign that. I still have to bid that, come back in one more time. So we still got that $1 million on tennis courts to do. But I wanted to capture that on this sheet because this is the overall bond for you guys to make decisions. The tennis courts will hold it $1 million. Don't let that affect your opinion. We're going to be able to build and do it. So long story short, if you go down on the far right hand, you've got an over under, and I just put the DD on, guys, to show you how we did better this time. Our design development a month ago or 2 months ago, showing you the live ones on the right hand side. But the category I want you to really focus on is the over under, what's overhead and under green. If you go down, you've got a 1,567,461 under. So as the bond as a whole, so for the $55 million bond, we're just over 1.5 million under. The 1,610 has the 4% of FF&E added onto it. That's the difference between those two numbers. That adds the FF&E onto it. So technically right now, as we sit today, we're at 1,610 under with FF&E. Okay. So you've got three alternates that are not included in that though. Alternate 1 for the rooftops, alternate 2
for the replacement of the high school, the roof, and then alternate 3 of the gym entrance. If you take all 3 of those alternates, then you're $774,000 over, okay? And I know that's probably a little while, report's really over. If you look to the right-hand side of that, we were two months ago, we were actually 1,351,000 over. And a month before that, we were over 2.1 million. We all kind of agree, hey, we want to do this, right? We've got different capital outlay monies, bond and interest monies we can use. But again, Brian and us, we wanted to just come in under, show you how we can come in under. You guys choose how you want to spend bond interest. You choose how you want to spend capital outlay. That's not our. So as of today, 1,600. Those are the 3 alternates that you can choose. So, and if you choose all 3 of those, you're 774. And to your question, we've been working with Matt diligently at SPT on the FF&E budget. Okay. We are right now with everything, with all the CTE equipment, we're sitting just over $800,000 that we need to come out of capital outlay to do all the FF&E for all 5 schools. Okay. So we're sitting here in front of me. I would say just a round number, about 850,000. We think we gotta heal up the FF&E side just for some furniture that, wasn't anticipated back when this thing passed. All the furniture, fixtures, and equipment, mainly the big things for the CT stuff. So take all the alternates today, you add that 850 to it. You gotta take the 850 plus the 775. Sorry, I didn't do that math for you, so you're about 1.6. That makes sense if you do all of them. We're still under the
1.6 over,
Oh,
which is what we would need to take out. Go out and cover and all the alternates and.
you can. speak
Well,
that.
you can look at capital outlay, you can look at bond premium, and you can look at bond and interest.
Yes.
Those are the 3 categories, which there would be enough in those categories to cover that. And we anticipated that with some of the CTE equipment that we were looking at, and recognizing that this budget that they're proposing to you guys also builds in how much contingency for the high school, 800,000.
75,000.
And so
We made a couple 100,000 happen back. So think of it that way too.
Yeah, that number's still gonna change. I mean, they'll bump into some contingency situations, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the other buildings, middle school's the only one that really, had to really dig into that contingency much. The others didn't. So I think, you probably got quite a bit of padding in contingency. So if you think of 800,000 in contingency, you think of whatever the number would be out of capital outlay, we'll have to rework that. Probably 2 million in bond and interest. So you got 2.8 million in, plus there's some capital outlay funding there. So I think we're okay. It's just, I've been pushing that FF&E conversation hard because there's some deferred maintenance items that I still think that it would be in the best interest of the district to take care of. Rooftop units at Ewald is one of them. If we don't want to do all the rooftop units at the high school at one time, but if we can squeak out a couple more, that'd be good. I definitely think that the roof really shouldn't be an alternate at this point. The roof at the high school just needs to get done.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some of those conversations, but I agree. I think that as far as the numbers go, we're probably in pretty good shape.
On the rooftop units, so we're doing 24 and the 28 more as alternate. Is that all of the rooftop units at high school, or are there more?
There are a few that weren't on the schedule that just were in great shape.
Yeah. We try to replace them over time and that kind of thing. So,
Just don't want to get.
There's very few.
yeah, we don't want to do all of them at once. I think there's like 50 or 55 total.
Looks pretty new. That's.
But those are being rotated, right?
Mhm.
Those are the things we talk about in buildings and grounds. Yeah, we try to do, 3 to 5 a year, that kind of thing. But the problem with the rooftop units is eventually they swallow you up and then a bond has to help you out. That's kind of just the way that it is. Because, you're probably talking 2.5 million in rooftop units, the high school right now without the alternates. So, yeah, but I know I'm a squeaky wheel on it. I would hate to have there be deferred maintenance issues. If we can adjust them now, without, overdoing it to the point where they all come due at the same time and the district can't manage it. So there's a balance there. Some of it's the high school, but you know, maybe it's get a couple done at Ewalt. What I told them the other day was I need to get a couple done at Ewalt because Ewalt, even though it may not be an emergency, the thing about Ewalt is that there's a weight requirement issue on the roof, and can the roof hold the weight of the new units because the new units weigh more. And my point there is, let's get a couple of them done so that we know how to do the next few when the time comes, because when are we going to have a construction company, an architect, all these experts in the room? So let's get the blueprint for how to do that while stabilizing the roof. And then we know how to do it for the next, because there's maybe 5 over there. So I mean, if we did 2, I'd feel pretty good about that. So those are some of the conversations I'm having on some of the deferred maintenance stuff.
So we're deciding all. Or we're
No,
deciding.
I think today, and really I tried to simplify on this very sheet, so if I'm one of you setting it there. This is really what we're recapping. High school is the blue. That's dollar for dollar on the high school, and these are the exact alternates from the initial last month, just like I told you. I don't know that you can do the RTUs. But you'll. The RTUs?
Yeah, we can do these.
I think I'll give you my input on the alternates.
Okay.
My input on the alternates is I think we should come back to the RTU, because this isn't there's already RTUs in the, yeah. I think you should come back to the RTUs. Because,
Go ahead and do the roof and the gym entrance then.
and then
I'm
you'd
hoping.
still be to the good under budget, probably like just under 300,000 or somewhere in that range. And then, and this is not spending any of the bond and interest money or the, what's the other one that I just lost? Bond, premium. Okay. So you still have that sort of in the bank waiting. You have to remember, like, it's okay to hold on to some of the funds and purchase them a little later in the bond, because it's gaining interest the longer you wait, right? The more we spend into the bond, the less we have that's gaining interest, and you get it. So to me, once we get to a point where we're like, okay, we got the bond and interest dollars ready to spend, we pretty much know, like, this is really what we're dealing with from a budget perspective on those, then you can come back to the RTUs at the high school or the Ewalt or any other alternate really at that point. And you can say, okay, now that we know what our premium is, we know, okay, we can invest this much out of capital outlay and this is, et cetera. Then you can come back to some of those alternates. So what I'm thinking is hold off on that additional round of RTUs until then, and then look at alternate 2 and 3 tonight.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the bid package 3 at the high school for 32,722,840,000 and include alternate 2 and 3.
Okay.
All in favor?
Need a second?
Oh, my bad. Yeah, we was unanimous, my bad. I'm kind of.
So that decision, Bill, like that said, about 300,000 to the good. No bond, and take this, no capital operation. The blue for the bring down below, the package 2. Is there anything that we want to revisit from Ewalt? And I highlighted today, we're talking about one that actually did sustain an increase, I didn't increase it. It did sustain an increase of about $20,000 between last month and this. I asked the factory to hold it. They did help hold it for us. And so we can do that still. I said, promise I would, we did. So we can hold that tonight. It does, after the 9th, that's gonna go up. Now, you can choose to do.
Is that $20,000 a piece?
No. It's not very minimal, it's the whole grant,
Okay,
but it's only 806 plus 1,000, so 826.
so we need to make a motion on this one too.
So, but that's all. That's actually, that's 14, that's 2 makeup area units and 12 rooftop. That's all.
What's the total on that one?
Well, what's that?
On bid package 2, are you wanting to?
Well, these are just the alternates on bid package 2. There is no total because we need to go.
So we need to do them one by one.
One by one.
Okay.
Well, you approved Ewalt last month.
Total here.
Yep. So then we were gonna see how the high school came in, come back to these. So now you've got that 300,000 to the good. You can go through and potentially approve items, alternate items 2 through 5, and
Those are the ones we want, 2 through 5.
Well, because you're probably still wanting to wait on the
Yeah.
RTUs, so you can kind of piece those out later. So
All
those
right.
are the ones I think you should.
Do some of the RTUs. Well,
I think you eventually will want to do that. But
Wait.
what I think we're gonna have to do is have, what's the company you guys were, there's a company that can kind of help us assess some of those, like which ones do they think that we should really knock out? I think we should do, 2 to 3 of the larger ones at Ewalt. But so my point is you're gonna have to piece it out, right? Because it's gonna be some of the ones at Ewalt, maybe some of the ones at the high school. You can even still look at maybe an alternate item at the middle school or whatever. So I think the alternates are gonna come back to you again for another look.
Be here. Some. That's right. It's never gonna be cheaper. Yes, we're gonna sustain a little increase, in just the cost of the unit from this last one, probably for another 3 or 4 months after that. But we can come back in a month after basis engineering, so you're searching for, to maybe tell
Yeah.
some of the older ones that are over there. What are the 2 or 3 you would replace right now? And then go forward and let's get that before this 800 goes down to 200. That's we want to see if they want to put that next month or we have a while in there. GCs will have to increase in that, but the cost of the units is small, but it would be no less.
Yeah.
but we don't want to just say it's just replace 4 units and have basis tell us which 4 units.
I don't think you've got the right number to approve that, because when you do a board approval, you've got to say the number of which you're approving or like a not to exceed, and we don't have that yet. So,
Right, I move that we accept alternates 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Got a motion on the floor, second by Amy. Discussion. I actually remembered to ask for discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, what else do you need, sir?
As soon as be easier in the market. Motorized operation stage divider and be that for West Kingdom.
well, we were gonna look at pictures of the west canopy.
I'd like to see the west canopy.
No, they have a printed copy.
Okay, my bad.
They have a printed copy that Brian or Drew sent over on some visuals.
So we don't want to delete the motorized.
Yeah, motorized. The thing is, that's the only, the other two elements have motorized. This one would not, if we approve that. We'll get grant backs, but it wouldn't be motorized. The other 2 are motorized. So if you want every elementary to be the exact same.
Probably every elementary should be the same.
I wondered if you, like, if there was a reason we wanted to do it because it was a pain or something.
We threw it out there, it's big enough number, actually, we was.
So you've got the Ewalt dock stapled here. Somewhere in there is the entrance visual with and without.
Very last page. sir.
Last page, thank you. And then, of course, you can see on the right, well, they put, it's very hard to see, I think, but there's some signage there on the far left there that would say Ewalt. That could be bigger, obviously, and be placed in a more prominent location rather than have it tucked away. But the other option is you can either deduct the VE alternate, the last one, or you can build out that entrance the way they've got it.
So this way it would be covered all the way to the sidewalk. And the other way, it's not.
This-
Yeah, pretty much just like it is.
As is.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the other one better, but I don't know. But no, I need to do it.
And that was already included in the base bid or no?
You've already approved that today. For that.
So the only thing we'd be doing now would be taking it away. So we
I'd say
probably don't
leave it
want
alone.
to take it away. Let's leave it alone.
The
Leave it
re-
alone.
the reason we built it in as a deduct was because we didn't know where the high school was gonna come in. So if the high school came in over budget, it was one of those ones that you could talk about removing. So like when I think about like over the next couple of years, say you want to go ahead and do that. I mean, the things you should be thinking about are, okay, so we're gonna stay within the budget. And hopefully the contingency items bring some more money back to the district. Then you've got bond interest and bond premium, and then capital outlay. And so then what you're gonna wanna try to figure out is, how do you try to make the best use of all of those? So ideally, it'd be nice if you could take 500,000 and put it back into the bond, from a payoff perspective, and then, or whatever the amount is. So, utilizing all of those funds strategically over the next 2 years is the idea.
So it seems,
It's not your mouth with construction dollars squared up. You said it had the $300,000 savings, you come down here and you take some more, we'll still have some FF&E overages, when we said about 850, so you're still 850. I'll just say, that's what it is, so gotta use money to heal up FF. And Matt's right, though, as it does grow, you can go back and do these and be more strategic about more rooftops and things like that later on, so.
so what do you guys think of the canopy? None of the other schools have a covered canopy, I don't believe.
But you won't just have
Yeah.
a difficult,
Do they?
like, with getting kids out, right? Like, I mean, you're parking.
I don't feel strongly either way.
Lincoln has a canopy, when you walk in. And Garfield also does. It's not long and narrow, but
But
they've
there is
got
a
a
place for the kids to wait outside of the weather.
walk up the steps. I mean, the Garfield one's not as, the substantial as the one at Lincoln.
Kids just notice that the cars pull up,
Yeah.
so they don't wait outside. They
Currently.
currently, and they're not planning to change that. Because with all the crosswalks and the way the parking lot is, to have them this many
Dangerous.
way is very dangerous. So
So we don't need it really.
it looks nice.
It does look.
It looks nice. There were things that as a building, the teachers prioritized.
Over that.
And when did you get those things?
I'm not sure.
I mean, if we give that up, there's no guarantee that money's gonna go back into E-Wall, right?
Oh, well, that's up to us.
It's up to you. It can go to rooftops.
I'm sure the teachers would love that.
Yeah, certainly, yes.
Yeah,
So.
what do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
Don't do it? Can we just hold off for now, or do you have to know right now?
Standing out there, I don't think it's that necessary. I mean, I've ran into that covered area, so.
And we'd rather save the money and not put it back on bond.
So let's accept the VE alternate for the canopy. But we want to go ahead and leave the stage divider, and since all the other schools have it.
Yeah,
Would you like to make that a motion, Angie?
I would.
Very good. Can I get a second, please? Got a second down there from Brent. Discussion.
My question on the original, on the way it is now, is there the ability to put the signage in that section on, that's there?
Yeah, I think they could make that bigger, Jim. Like, if you think about the Robinson community sign, how it's much larger, I see something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you're talking about moving to that blue
So we
section.
could dress up this.
Right. Okay, I got a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? There we go. What else do you need, sir? I like that.
No.
I figured the meeting would be over by the time I got here.
It would have been. We had some technological.
Brian, did you have
Yes.
anything to talk about on this document with the high school? Or this was provided to us, It was provided, but I think we've already covered it. covered it. Okay, because I'm just trying to process like what you guys, I guess it's the alternates, I guess. So you can see the.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay,
I think that's the better choice.
which one's that?
Adding the end.
Oh.
Sure, we did do that.
Yes, we did.
So but do you guys, because I just want to make sure, the last time there was questions about visuals, and so now you have 2 visuals on the high school. We get there?
On the left.
You are.
Or right.
The one,
Right.
The one on the left,
Is existing. The one on the left is if we're to leave it as is and.
Yeah.
Finish.
That's what the building looks like now.
Yeah, so it's the one on the right.
so it's the one on the right.
That's
Correct. That's what we approved.
Yes.
Hey, to thank you guys to spend more time talking about a canopy than you did about a class for 250 kids. Think about that. Think about that, because we'll be thinking about it next election.
Great, I
you.
got a year and a half. Next,
And when you were already smug when you saw us all standing back there, I've been smug every time.
you weren't on the agenda.
Okay,
Lord got passed. On, you guys talked about that. This is the entire youth program in Augusta. We see 1,000 families a weekend and you don't care about what we have to say. You don't want to explain anything to us. That's crap. That's unreal that you guys would treat us that way. We went to fight for this bond and you guys spent an hour talking about it. You don't care what anybody else has to say. That's
I'm
not
not pushing for this bond. We've been supporting you guys the whole
the
time.
whole time.
And you couldn't give us 5 minutes to even discuss what you guys had
We're
come up with.
here, why?
Or even give us a reason.
Just ignore
But hey,
it.
we're just the public. We're just the public. You're an asshole, Doug Wall.
But I earned it.
Wrestling coaches, football coaches, baseball coaches, all of us spend our time with you. every
Thank you.
single day.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you don't hear? That's the problem. Don't fish.
Okay.
National kids, you guys take it.
principals. Who wants to go first? Seems like I missed a lot.
No.
That was it.
Oh, they didn't talk at all?
Well, they're-
Brandon and
They did, they,
Sinead.
Oh,
well,
sorry
Trevor,
about that.
So here reporting on our reading goals, update from fall to spring, so. You can see our data, some of it is not what we had hoped for, but, it is what it is, and again, this is just one data point throughout the years, so. But I had each grade level reflect on their data from here, their action steps, and kind of give me some feedback. And so if you hit the next slide, kindergarten successfully grew tier 1 from 58% to 70% this school year. Some of the strategies that contributed to this growth included integrated fluency pyramids from Reading Horizons and different pinch cards that they learned from some of their letters training. They use those materials and resources daily in small group setting to strengthen the letter recognition, sound authenticity, and overall reading fluency. First grade as a whole showed growth during their Reading Horizons block, but unfortunately with some of the differences in the fast bridge testing as they change over the school year, they didn't see the results they were expecting. But again, look forward to next year tackling that. Second grade, their goal was focused on decreasing the number of tier 2 and 3 students by moving them into tier 1. Through daily read aloud using grade level context and repeated readings to strengthen fluency. Throughout the year, they found that our tier 3 population remained mostly unchanged, indicating that these students continued to need intensive support. However, they were successful in moving students from tier 2 to tier 1, showing great growth in fluency, confidence, and overall reading performance. So excited to see those numbers. In third grade, through a combination of research-based practices in the core reading instruction and targeted tier 2 and 3 instruction, focused on individual deficiencies in fluency. Third grade strives to improve all aspects of reading. While they did not meet the goal of having 5% more in the tier 1 status on FastBridge, they were able to move several students from tier 3 to tier 2 status, which is great to see. And if they focused on growth, 88% of third grade students showed moderate, typical, or aggressive growth from fall to spring. And only 11% of students had flat growth. In fourth grade, they were reading a text from their reading curriculum on every day for 1 minute over the week. Students were partnered up and read for 1 minute, being monitored by the same partner. The hope was to see the growth over the week. Once they both read for each minute, they summarized the reading. While the percentage in tier 3 didn't change throughout the year like we'd hoped, every single student grew in words per minute, which is our other test that we do, our CBM.
in the falls to spring. And lastly, in fifth grade, students practice reading fluency daily for 5 to 10 minutes using grade level passages. Teachers model fluent reading and student practice with partners, repeated readings and feedback. Students also track their own progress and set monthly goals. So from their fall to spring, scores improved. So they improved in their tier 1 by 3%. So almost to that 5% throughout the school year. So that's our first one. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Lincoln was pretty similar to Garfield in the stance of like, we didn't see the growth we wanted to see, but we saw a lot of good growth overall. So each grade level had their own goals. So the next slide can go through those. 70% of our kindergartners will meet or exceed. We got to 64% of them. 70% of first graders will demonstrate at least 1 year's growth on nonsense words. Our first grade hit that and got 79% of their first graders through that. 25% of our students will advance a tier. They got 15% of students to advance a tier, so it's good to see in second grade. Third grade, they got 24% of their students to move down on the A rating assessment, which is really good growth. Didn't quite meet their goal of 26%. Fourth grade, 75% of students will be at or above benchmark. They had 54% of students at or above on the A rating. And then fifth grade, 50% greater than baseline, and they got 8 points, and 28% of the students showed better growth. So on the next slide, I kind of went through each grade level and found their growth that they did make. So 17% of students were typical or better growth. 48% of students met the benchmark for letter sounds. 43 for word segmenting, 43 for nonsense words. 57% were typical or better growth, and then 73% of the benchmark for word segmenting, 67 for nonsense words. 47% typical or better growth for A reading, 55% for A reading in third grade. So these are kids that are making a year or more growth in that time frame. So we're seeing good growth, and so that was really good to see. Overall, 50% of our early reading test takers got 50% better, or typical or better growth. A reading 27%. Our auto reading went up 100%, so not up 100%, but 100% of our students have made that growth that we were looking to see. And then 77% of our students made growth on that CDM. So lots of good growth. The reading goals allowed for teachers to kind of focus in on a goal. They appreciated that. While they didn't always meet them, they were really happy to have that focus during PLCs on Fridays. And you can see it come through in our student scores on FastBridge as well as state assessments. Not quite where we want to be yet, but we're definitely making that growth. So excited to see where they go from here.
Great.
Thank you.
So evolved. So these are just, I left the fall tier 1, 2, and 3 numbers up and put up the spring ones. So you can see pre-K, and this is all pre-K, not just 4-year-olds. So the 3 and 4-year-olds. And again, this FastBridge isn't normed for 3-year-olds. So we have 78% of our pre-K students now are testing in tier 1. They were at 67% in the fall. 18% in tier 2 and only 4% in tier 3. So that was good. Kindergarten, the test changes in kindergarten from the first one to the last one. So they're not tested on the same skills at the beginning of the year as they are at the end. So our tier 1 number is a little lower, but I have a encouraging slide on their grade level goal on the next one that you'll see that looks a little better than this, but we still only have 5% of our kids in tier 3, which is a good number, which is where it's supposed to be. And then first grade, again, we went up how many kids are in tier 1, not as much as they'd like, but their test also changes from fall to spring, so it's kind of deceiving. And then we've dropped numbers of kids in tier 2 and tier 3, which we want those numbers to keep getting smaller. Second grade oral reading fluency. We went from 39% at tier 1 to 56% and dropped from 28% in tier 3 to 11% in tier 3. So that was a good number. Third grade was a little more struggle, kind of stayed the same. Looks like we had a few kids go from tier 2 down to tier 3. The word count number in third grade goes up pretty high from beginning to end. So we just didn't make quite as much growth as we would have liked to have seen. Fourth grade, you can see their percentages increased, and tier 2 and tier 3 both decreased on that one, and the same with fifth grade. Except we do have a higher number in tier 3. But again, that percentage gets a lot higher. A reading is the overall reading score. The thing to remember when you're looking at, I think that's important, when you're looking at third, fourth, and fifth grade scores, is they had 2 weeks of state assessments. And then the very next week, they had to take FastBridge so we could have these results for you for this board meeting. So
That's a lot.
it's a lot of testing, and FastBridge is a lot of testing. No excuses. We are looking at these numbers and they're important. I think, looking at our tier 3 numbers did drop on a reading from fall to spring. So that's important. But they are making progress. It's just really hard to convince kids to do tests for 3 weeks.
It's hard to get adults to do that.
The next slide, then pre-K, their grade level goal was that they're just looking at their 4-year-olds, that they would exceed benchmark in letter names and onset sounds on FastBridge. In the fall, we had 67% of the 4-year-olds who knew letter names and 78% that could identify onset sounds. Now we're at 78% and 86%. We actually have a couple of classes that are over 90% in both of those, so they're doing really good. One of those 4-year-olds is a 4-year-old that we are keeping in pre-K 1 more year because they met their guidelines. So at least it's given us good information. Kindergarten, their goal was that 90% of their kids would accurately read grade level decodable tests. So their goal is 90%. They are at 70% of their kids accurately reading decodable text, which I think is farther than we've been before, just to have the kids reading the decodable text. So really, it's a pretty good number. First grade, they wanted 80% of their kids to be able to read at least 22 nonsense words. In the fall, they were at 43%. In the spring, they jumped to 70%. We're not at 80, but we're way closer to 80 than we were in the fall. And then second grade, they've really been focusing on vocabulary and have been doing a lot of Anita Archer explicit instruction, vocabulary instruction. And so their goal was about getting their students to accurately, and when they're taking their assessments, be able to understand the vocabulary and help it with their comprehension. And their last assessment that they took, their goal was 80% of their second graders would be able to do that. And their last test that they just did was they had 80% of them be able to do that. And it was much lower. Like their pre-test before they do this are averaging around 29 or 30% of the kids are able to do it. So they're making good progress, and they're really excited about next year because they'll start this from the very beginning and work with that explicit instruction all the way through. Third grade is they were hoping for 73% for A reading. They are at 58%. So it's really kind of stuck. And again, I think especially for third graders, 3 weeks of tests are really hard. Fourth grade, their goal was that the kids would be doing better on their open court reading comprehension tests. At least 75% of them would get 75% or higher, and they're at 92% of their kids are doing that this spring. So some good work. And then fifth grade has been working a lot on comprehension. They were going for 60% of their kids would demonstrate that ability to comprehend at 80% or higher. They only have 33% of those kids doing that in the fall, and right now we're at 58. So not quite 60, but it's pretty good growth from 33 to 58. So, well, again, we're not where we want to be, but we're at least making progress. And then this is just again, some of the things that they're using. That didn't change to help with those skills, so.
All right, we're up next. Our method was a little bit different. Our focus was on tier one, instruction versus classroom data. So our data looks different. So ours was to implement the critical reading process into all tier one classes. So our goal was 80% of our teachers will do the critical reading process twice a month. We started with 30% of our teachers did it last school year. 36% of our teachers used it a couple of times last school year. At the end of this year, and this is a little bit hard to track, we had teachers fill out a Google form every time they did the critical reading process in their classroom, which is just one more thing for them to do. So our data could be off a little bit, but we had 81% of our staff completed the critical reading process in their classroom, but only 50% of our staff did it or recorded it at least twice a month. So our goal was to change teacher behavior before we can change student behavior or student data. So our goal was to work on developing that good tier one instruction. So if you look at the next slide, this breaks down what class the critical reading process was broken down to per content area. So obviously English is the easiest to implement it into because they're reading in English every single day. But we also saw a ton in math. It was awesome to walk into a math teacher's classroom and they had a critical reading guide that they had created for kids that was on their desk every single time that they had word problems out. So they were annotating word problems every single time. And that was built into their like math notebook. It was their bookmark. They had it out on their desk. So you can kind of just see the breakdown of all the classes that were implementing that. We had over 250 entries of teachers getting on and logging that data throughout the year. And then our FastBridge data, we showed a lot of growth. Our sixth grade kind of stalled a little bit, but from the winter to the spring, seventh grade went from, or had a growth percentile of 43 in the winter. And then 65% of our kids showed growth in the spring. Same thing with eighth grade, and 44% of kids showed growth in the winter, and then to spring it was at 58. And then the sixth grade went down a little bit with kids who were on grade level, but seventh and eighth grade kind of remained that same percentage essentially.
So as you know, middle school kind of on this mission. Our goal is to go into avid national demonstrations for the next 5 years. And that's like a big brand to put on our building, but that's just putting high impact, high quality strategies in our teachers' hands to show them like this is what high quality instruction is like. And so our next steps for reading is how do we continue to show teachers what high quality tier one instruction looks like, put the right strategies in their hands, and make sure we're implementing that on a regular basis. So next year, through our Avid Site team, we're really leaning into reading as our focus, because we know that if you can't read, you can't be successful in any of your contents. And one of the main ways that we're going to focus on that is through the use of vocabulary, because it's easily implementable across all subjects. Use vocabulary in PE, use vocabulary when you're driving on the street. Everyone needs vocabulary to be successful in life. So that's one of the main strategies we're going to use teachers to talk about what does the high quality vocabulary instruction look like? How do you implement that successfully to make sure that kids are gaining that word knowledge so that they can give high impact instruction consistently.
Okay, high school, we wanted to attack reading this year with reps of reading. So again, I think I might have shared with you, this was brought to me mid-September of my first year as principal. And so I was spending for a couple of weeks trying to wrap my head around that, getting staff to buy into a build-by reading strategy goal that was starting after the school year started. So that was a big hurdle for me to climb, but I didn't do it alone. We have an incredible ETSS coordinator and incredible staff that came alongside me to come to our goal. And so we decided to try to show improvement in our FastBridge reading score, since that's what we were below state average at, and in our state assessment. And so
we wanted to attack fast food reading. We gave high quality, high impact strategies to teachers. And then now this is a digital document that they can quickly access any of those strategies that I shared with you late last time. And so this is how we try to attack it. We wanted to implement high quality, high impact strategies in every classroom every day. We wanted to try to partner with elementary schools and get our bigs around the littles and help them fall in love with reading. Because just like with athletics, if you get those kids, if you get those kids to fall in love with sport when they're young, then it's not economic. They want to go to the ball, they want to get in the gym, they want to go work on those things. And we feel like it's the same thing with reading. Get them to fall in love with that at a young age. I think it's cool to have the high school kids around them, reading to them. Maybe they can fall in love with that, talk to their parents about getting some books, those types of things. And then the biggest thing for us and why I think we achieved our goal is we try to incentivize the growth. High school kids, like all kids, love to eat. And so we try to incentivize giving their best effort on FastBridge. And I'll show you how we did that. And so this is data that, like I said, our NTSS coordinator helped me come up with. And so there you can see from fall to spring, the different grade levels and the growth in all areas and moving into that tier 1 and limiting tier 3 and tier 2 and every single area. And so again, we feel like at the high school level, it's not so much a performance. And for some of the kids, they do need some. So thankfully, we have tier sports reports for them. It's more of an effort. And after 9, 10, 11 years of taking the FastBridge reading test 3 times a year, you don't get a grade for it. We had to find a better way to get them to give their best effort. And so I think we found that. I have a few examples of different content areas attacking reading. And so math department does a great job. They started doing a gist, 20-word gist, having a read math lesson. So the students would reflect on what they learned in that lesson and put it down in writing so that they can, and this is all safe, so they can go back and review that. And then on the next slide, it's very, very small, but basically those are guided notes. This one helped me in math because it was all foreign language to me. But these were guided notes that our math teachers were able to create for our students as teachers lecturing and guiding them through a lesson. They can follow along, have these notes built in that they can go back and review. And then you can kind of see it at the bottom, but there's example problems that they work through, and then they can take that home with them in the evening when they're doing their work on their own or FaceTime. And then this is pretty impressive. Our Spanish kids, when I walk into there to do an evaluation, they're all talking Spanish the whole time. So good stuff going on there. But they read Spanish topics this year, first time in. And then on the next slide, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but this is right outside Mr. Bella's classroom. They are writing in Spanish, and it's very, very good. And so good things are happening there.
You know what all that says, right?
About me, honestly.
We would never know, would we?
No, it's pretty impressive, and I just love to see the intentional effort there with pushing kids farther than they've ever been pushed. And so really good things happen in the Spanish department, and so kudos to them. And then this is again where I think we can make a big impact. And so there's a couple of pictures there of our high school kids getting in front of little kids and just build those relationships, being good mentors and role models, reading to them, and helping them fall in love with reading. Because I think I compare it to same thing in athletics. You get them to fall in love with it early, and it's just what they want to do. And then finally, here's our big stats. We gotta come up with we gotta get a lot of pizza. So the last day of school, kids, and we actually had it in math too. So we threw in an extra slice of pizza if they could improve their math. And so we were looking at maintaining if they're at benchmark, because we felt like the kids that didn't show improvement, but they maintained grade level and are doing what they're supposed to be doing, they should be rewarded too. The kid that just does what they're supposed to do all the time, maybe they didn't show improvement and maintain grade level, we threw them in there. And so that's why
Our staffs look as good as they do, and we gotta get a lot of pizza and pop on the last name. Thank you. Please.
All right, well, obviously, settings totally different, my time in existence is totally different, so y'all know from my original reporting out of the goals, how different my goals actually are. So not so much about reading interventions, but about building an intervention system that works and then establishing where our tiers were. So just to kind of drop back to the beginning, we wanted to develop an MTSS framework tailored to our unique learning needs in our virtual setting, mostly about academic achievement and attendance, capturing attendance in a meaningful way. So didn't have anything in our handbook. We didn't really have any hard structures in place. We had some things we were trying within first semester. We did watch the TAS and MTSS in a virtual setting 3-part series. That was one of the steps in my action plan. We also used our district resources and statewide resources to help develop the MTSS framework for my virtual setting. Yeah, Melanie. We did complete that, like I said, we did develop an actionable MTSS process, focused, like I said, on course completion and attendance and engagement, which are really our big measures. I don't know if I showed y'all my student standing process, but I put it in my handbook to be approved for next year. So you can see we borrowed from the high school. They're a good standing structure for students. We start out in good standing, and that's when a student meets all of our attendance and academic engagement requirements, right? And there's really 4. One of them has to do with attending required meetings. And so that one is only timely. So really there's 4 main ones. Daily engagement by either minimum hours required during the week before or staying on pace in their courses. Then there's the instructional check-ins, the weekly check-ins with Ms. Winter, communicating consistently, responding within 24 hours to any communication between me or Ms. Winter, and then passing grades. So not just on track, but also passing grades. Students who remain in good standing meet those expectations every week. If they fall off one of those expectations, they drop down into academic notice. And then those are all of these academic standings are calculated on Monday mornings. Students and parents are notified on Monday afternoon. And then the consequence piece of it, when we get to the bottom, you'll see that sets in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the week. It's hard for us because in the virtual setting, you can't require students to come on site and work. So we have a Zoom option as well that you'll see for one of our, call it ISS, but it's a little bit of a different consequence. Academic notice, they move to academic warning. And then finally, academic probation is when they fail to meet good standing requirements for the 3 consecutive weeks. We schedule intervention meetings, we go over the intervention plan to try to identify the best that we can, those barriers, those limitations, those things that we see, the parent sees, the student identifies that are getting in their way of being successful in their virtual setting. A lot of it is just learning how to manage your own time, because if you're sitting at home, you don't have 4 teachers every single day telling you, go here, do this next, open your book, do this. You really have to be a self-motivated, structured individual to be able to stay in good standing every single week, week after week after week. We absolutely have a couple who did stay in good standing week after week after week, but almost all the students dropped down and then dropped back. And teenagers, I would be flabbergasted if they all stayed in good standing the whole entire year. We do have a few that are verbal superstars, but most of them dipped in and out of those standing structures, right? So we do, it still says suspension. So I've changed that on the document. The student may be assigned in-school support. So that's saying
That does sound better.
Helpful, yeah. Where we do require them to work with our teacher 4 days a week for 4 hours each day, whether it's in person or over Zoom. Enforcing that is definitely a challenge. We continue to push and push and push. Kids might say nag and nag and nag. It doesn't really matter to me what people call it, but we're going to continue to push our expectations out. And we have some things that we're going to put in place hopefully next year to help parents understand that we are nagging, but with their best interest in it, right? We do have tied to this as well, so that if a student does not do some of these things, then we do file truancy, and I've gotten close with just one student, but she withdrew and transferred elsewhere. determined each Monday. Yeah, so you can get out of that piece. That will go in our handbook. And we will continue to refine some of that. There are some pieces of it that I think we need to be a little bit more clear on.
If you stay out of it,
It goes.
gets out of it, so hang on just a second.
And,
Giving you a break for a minute.
There we go.
okay. Yeah, okay. So I was like, the show, like, how to be like data driven in this. I gotta find a way to do that. So what I thought I'd do is I'd look at we have a grade tracker. And that Rebecca Redford, who I worked with all year, she helped us, she gave us this document and it tracks student standing by grade and progress every single week. And Miss Winter goes in every Monday and inputs this information for every single one of the kids. So I thought I'll look back at the 6-week period. We use that in first semester and compare it to the 6 weeks to a 6 week period in this semester. So now hit it. I love this part.
Let's.
Okay, so these screen grabs, the track, you will see in semester one, there are 3 just random students. Actually, I didn't pull it randomly. They're ones that could have used the student standing process in first semester, right? There wasn't, I thought, I wish we had this in first semester to keep some of this from being a problem up into the very, very end. So you can see semester 1, the 6-week window, and that 11/24, that's Thanksgiving. That's why there's nothing in there. You can see that student 1, all the way in those 6 weeks, struggled to get out of red. The percentage complete of the classes, it was just a struggle the whole time. Not the same ending 6 weeks, but a 6-week screen grab from back March into April. You literally, this student has been on academic probation on and off through the last semester. You can see the difference that coming in the center or having a little bit more intentional conversations about the progress and using that standing policy to drive some of that conversation. You can see the difference that it made across the way for that student. Now, don't panic and think, oh my gosh, SBA had so many kids fail classes in first semester. That kid came in the last week of school, and I think he was in there every single day and passed everything. It made A's, but he did pass everything in the end, and he learned. He's done much better this semester. Okay, go on to student 2. You can see another example of how the student standing policy that we've put in place has really made a difference in the achievement of our students. And then scroll on down to student 3. And you could just see from those little screen grabs, just 3 students, for an example of ones that really have been on academic probation. So we're pretty pleased with the impact that this MTSS process has had. We also have begun to identify the existing tier 1, 2, and 3 structures that we have in place, and you can click on that one. This is an awful busy graphic. I got a little Canva crazy one afternoon, I guess. So you can see some of the universal support that we've identified at tier 1, and then our targeted interventions and our intensive interventions that come straight from our student standing policy. And we will continue to refine these as we move through the years. So the next steps for us will be add the policy to our handbook, and it's in there to be approved. Whenever we have those approved, continue to refine those levels of standing. And then at our open house night, we want to have a parent student agreement where we really are clear about what the student standing policy is, why it exists, and how we will enforce it if it comes to that. So that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't go too far, Audrey.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Aren't you the next?
I think it's a memo, but I.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's, yep. Want to go on?
Any questions for principals before they?
Looks like a lot of work. Thank you very much. It's nice to know what's happening out there.
Yep, so we have 24 credits that are required at SVA. I have, over this last year, had several students apply who are extremely credit deficient, to the extent that with 24 credits, they won't finish with me. I will happily refer them elsewhere if I need to. But what I would like to request is that I have administrative discretion in these extreme cases. I'm not at all talking about across the board, but in these extreme cases to grant a 21 credit waiver for students who come in to me, either extremely credit deficient from other districts or who have extreme hardship situations. The way things we go about it now is we have to write a little appeal for each student and have it approved. And I don't mind saying who I granted this to and why, but I would like to skip the appeal process and move straight to, you meet these qualifications, you can come and be my student and I can get you finished with 21 credits.
And 21 is the state minimum
21
now.
is the state minimum.
Just to be clear.
If you like,
Yeah.
it's like literally. Smoky Valley Charter Schools graduation waiver policy is what I used, what I have up there for you to look at. I mean, it is just a way for them to say, these are the risk factors that they use when they drop from 24, because theirs is also 24 to 21. And that is the ones that they use.
I think it's more important that they graduate than we worry about the extra credit.
And I'll show you, Melanie,
Classes.
lots of it. We can come back to that if you want to, but go down to the samples. Oh, well, I'll tell you real quick. It will allow extremely credit deficient students to continue to enroll and successfully graduate. What I don't want is for them to enroll, me have to hold them to 24 and then they're a dropout from me
Right.
because they just
Can't
physically
do
can't
it.
do it.
Yeah.
It would allow us to be competitive with other virtual programs. Rocket Online is 21 by nature. Humboldt is 21 by nature. That is what they require. And administrative waivers are allowed at other virtual schools. I have Smoky Valleys, but Ad Astra also has administrative waiver in place. These are 3 examples of students that I would say would qualify for this kind of a waiver situation. And I think you'll see, I'm not trying to get my graduation requirements to 21 by any stretch. What I'm saying is I have some extremely credit deficient, some hardship students who I just would like the administrative ability and discretion to award, to say, yeah, 21 credits is best for you. And these are just some examples. The first 2 are former Rose Hill students. They enrolled with us in their junior cohort year with one of them had 2.5, one of them had 1.5. If
In
we
their
had
junior
interview
year?
process at that time, I may not have admitted these students, but that's why I just get in my head about the interview process. They have been so successful with us. Like they have earned all their credits and they're real quiet, but you can tell when they come in and they finish a class, they're real proud of themselves. We're going to admit them again next year. I can't admit them if they have to have 24 credits because they will literally, next year is their senior cohort year. They have to stay with me 2 more years. One of them will be 20 years old when she finishes. So it's gonna be a lot of work for both of them to finish with me. They will not if it's 24. They cannot physically get that number of credits in. They won't put the work in to get that much in anyway. So that's the first 2. The second one, the first 2 are just the 2 that are just unattainable by the time their cohort graduates. Student 3 is a potential new student. He moved from Florida. He should have graduated from Florida. I said, I wish I'd have known him. I'd have said, stay in Florida and finish. He has 17 credits. He would have graduated from his high school in Florida with 18 credits. But he had to move here. I think he works in town. He can finish with me in that 5th year cohort year. He has 17, so 18, 19, 20, 21. That's 8 classes, 4 credits. If he has to do 24, he won't enroll with me. So he's another one that I would like to be able to say 21 credits without having to write an appeal of and attach a transcript and all that. So that's my ask.
And your recommendation is the same?
Yeah, I think it's in line with the other virtual schools and I like the outline that she has on the hardship situation so that it classifies what categories there are. It's different. I mean, it's different than brick and mortar. It is.
But that's the whole point.
And I'm not gonna publish it. It's not gonna go in my handbook. It's gonna be an inner office held.
We need a motion?
I think yes, that's the key. Yeah, 2 friends, SBA credit waiver process as presented.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? Everybody?
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay. Curriculum. Come on now, you guys stay. You don't know. Boy, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one yet.
All right, well, I
Thank you, guys.
just gonna highlight a few pieces on this one in, the curriculum. Our science adoption, so we click on that one. So our high school, and back on the other page, and you have a copy of it, and you can see all of the different things that they have. And so this is what that comes to with the classes they have and the new curriculum or the newer version of the curriculum that they're requesting. The only one that I'm still going back and forth on is with the Explore Learning the Gizmos. I've got the 3-year quote from them. I'm trying to get them to give me a 7-year, that way that's the same year as everything else. So I believe once I hear from them, it would only be an additional 10,000. So if you bump up that instead of 126,000 to 136,000, that would be my guess at the high end. And again, when you get them to commit for 7 years, they usually give you a break. They just said they've never done something like that. They're very tech-based, like a lot of virtual labs and interactive, and so they probably just never committed that many years to acknowledge because it moves so quickly. So I'm still working with them on it. If they don't, then we would just have to revisit the cost. So, but that shows you where we're at for science for the high school. Middle school, so we have 2, they're finishing piloting Amplify. So they have another, 2 weeks to finish up that. We visited, Jessica and I visited with them this morning, and they're still kind of on the fence back and forth. There's a lot of good things with lab aids, but it is a little different, much more inquiry based, a heavier lift to help kids really think like scientists and do things differently. Where Amplify is a little closer to the curriculum they've used over the years, plug and play, but they're both good curriculums. They have not made a clear decision. We want to give them at least another week or so to keep answering some questions. We're going to have them do a Zoom if we can get them hooked up with, Wichita or Derby schools that are using Lab A, so they can see what does it look like for implementing this piece a couple more years. Because it is enough of a change to a little anxious about that. And so those are some things. The nice thing is the price is about the same between the two. So my ask to you is that you give us time to finalize that and just trust Jessica and I, both of us being former middle school science teachers, that we can finish this up with them and go ahead and adopt one of these. The price, again, cost is almost the same. And then the elementary, they said, hey, we love mystery science. We just want to keep doing it. We already have 1 year left on our current payment. And so I just made additional 6 years commitment. That's what that price would be. So when you add up kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, again, that's what the price, the cost, again, possibly an extra 10,000 if we can get Gizmo to commit 7 years, which I think will save us quite a bit, because those technology things, they always shoot them up a lot more over that with the years. So, this would be one where usually we ask for a recommendation, would approve, this cost.
You want us to approve 337 or 327?
It's up to you. If you're fine with doing the 337, that again, I believe we can keep it within that cost. I can always come back to you in June, let you know if we weren't able to keep it in that range. What are we budgeting for?
I mean, this is within the budget that they had set.
This is the only big curriculum this year.
So if we say not to exceed 340,000, and if you do, then you have to come back to us. Okay, I'll make a motion for that.
I will. That we adopt the K-12 science curriculum as presented in the amount of $340,000, not to exceed the amount of $340,000.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you.
All right, scroll down, I only have little notes I want to share. Yeah, SBA, so with testing virtually, so with our open ed and testing virtually, the state was requiring monitors to come in, a second person on the screen monitoring the kids take the test. They had issues last year. They had issues again this year where people either didn't, the monitor company, nobody showed up for the testing. They showed up anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour late. Or they canceled last minute, lots of issues. We, along with all of the other virtual schools, submitted documentation of complaints to the state. They said, we're aware of the problem, but they really didn't give us an answer. Due to that, there was definitely an outpouring in social media with our open ed parents. So while we had a few parents already planning to refuse to have their kids test, it increased quite a bit. Pretty high numbers saying, heck with this, not mess with this, because they scheduled time
Yeah,
to test their kids, and now that they had to change, it's not that easy because they had to have a separate device hooked up with a camera. Again, the reason these families do virtual is so they have options. So maybe they were going on vacation the next week, or maybe this or that, or there was surgery going to happen. That's why they're virtual. They have options. This really made it difficult for them. Plus, pretty disappointed in just it wasn't well organized and people didn't show up to monitor. We have been working with them. We let them know it's the state, it wasn't us, but unfortunately, once that was the social media cry out, we did get a high number. I'm in communication with the state saying, look, what's our plan? Because a lot of this was out of our hand, part of your, not being able to fix the problem you knew that was there last year. So just letting you know, we're in the works on that. We're also working with Open Ed to come up with some more things. For example, offering some more in-person sessions, because the in-person sessions happen before the virtual, and maybe we can just get more of the families that are close enough in some different pockets across Kansas come in person. Actually easier for some of them because they don't have to worry about a second camera to set up. And then if they wanted to have 2 or 3 of their kids all test at the same time, they come and do it. Or if they're trying to do it at home, they had to schedule different testing times for each one of them.
Do we not get funded if they refuse to test?
So yeah, that's a good question. So if we drop too low, too many of them refuse to test, then we go on a plan for improvement. So we already have in place things we plan to do to improve it to offset that percentage for next year. So we do better. So Audrey and I we got plans. We're working with Open Ed. They already have some plans. Yes, we already have a plan in place to improve it, but just want to be open with you. It just did not go as well as we hoped, and the monitoring did not help.
This one's frustrating because there's multiple converging factors here, because it's obviously the first year of operation for the virtual program. We're trying to figure out how to do remote state assessments for the first time with a population that just doesn't really want to have to do state assessments, especially the fact that a lot of these families would otherwise homeschool and they really don't want to have to do state assessments. We talked to Open Ed, who is a new partner in the state of Kansas for the first. So that's another one of my points. They're trying to figure out Kansas and Kansas state assessments. And but we've told them they've got to do the state assessment. That's part of the deal. So they're going to have to put more teeth on their end into making sure that people comply with that, because that's part of the requirement to participate in the Open Ed USD 402 partnership. That won't change if they change school districts either. It's a Kansas requirement. So you had all those things happening, and then the process at the state level kind of fell apart. And so then it was like, geez, like that's kind of that's frustrating because if the state and the partners that they brought in to help do this remote testing failed, then the state's going to eventually come back to us and say, well, sure, yeah, we had these issues, but you know, you guys need to get more people to test. But it kind of puts it's just a bad start for our new families to now have to say, yeah, but next time, trust us, it's not going to fall apart like that. And it's out of our control. We didn't know it was going to happen this time. So I guess part of my point here is that it's going to have to improve with us for sure, even though I think our staff did what they could do. KSDE's got to improve their process. And as Open Ed is learning the state of Kansas and navigating those waters, Open Ed's got to put some more teeth in it too. So it's sort of all of us working together. But the one group that's out of our control is KSDE. If they lay an egg next year again, there's nothing we can do about it. But what we can do is we can improve our processes, our communication, and work with Open Ed. And Open Ed's committed to doing that. And Open Ed's a good partner. They'll figure it out. This particular population is never going to be 100% without opt-outs. But we still have to try
Is
to
it
improve
up to
our
us whether we can have on-site, like have at a hotel conference room somewhere? Is that up to us to decide, or?
So that was another thing with it being new with Open Ed. I don't think that got clearly. So they had someone that went to all the same trainings that we had, and she knew all that. She switched, another person got hired in. I think we kept reminding them, hey, how many do you have that are doing in person? We need to know so we can set this up. And I think they thought they were going to be fine doing all virtual. And so, yeah. So again, lots to learn this first time. So the good thing is, even if we're documented as needing to improve, we already have things bulleted that we're going to improve on. Open Ed's very passionate about the things they're going to do to improve. We have ideas. And then just communicating better with parents to let them know what the good things they can get from taking the STEP assessments, how they can see their student progressing. So we have a lot of things in place that we know is going to help improve those numbers. Now, like George said, it's not going to get where we have zero refusal. We're still going to have a few. That's just the population we deal with, but we believe that number is going to shrink. Plus, with our number of enrollment growing, the percentage will be even smaller.
And Monitor EDU will no longer be the third party.
Thank you.
Yeah, they have, it's been years of issues. And we knew it going into it, but Monitor EDU, I think legislatively, the legislation had to say,
Enough.
you cannot require everybody to use this third party if there are going to be this many issues.
Yeah.
So that will also be a solve point there too.
Okay.
And so, we're not alone. There are all the other virtual schools complain to KSDE.
Yep.
We've been talking with them, very disgruntled. So the state is very aware that this did not go well and that it affected all of the virtual schools in a negative way.
But even if you take all that out, we do have to make sure that people are taking the state assessment because they're working with us as a public school. It's just a non-negotiable. And those families are going to have to decide whether they want to partner with our program or not, with that being a requirement.
And that's a requirement put on us by
From the state.
KSDE or by legislators.
It's sort of a KSDE federal government. I mean, it's also, the federal, I think regulations oversee this too, where they place percentages on how many opt-outs you have. And then if you get to a certain percentage, then you kind of get put on that watch list. And we don't want to be on a watch list. I mean, we just want people to commit to, if you're going to participate in this program, which is at no cost to the families, because through a public school, then there's certain things that they've got to do. And we thought we had that communicated pretty well, knowing that this was a population that is going to kind of push against doing those kinds of assessments. But it's just got to be a harder line from Open Ed when they communicate it. And then the mess that the third partner made, kind of created with KSDE only attaches more question for those families to it. So that's frustrating, but it is what it is. I mean, they still got to get that done.
Just wanted you to be aware we are on it and being pretty aggressive about it. So, but that is the realities of the spring testing. The other, we already spoke about the waiver, remind you about graduation next Wednesday.
And where is that gonna be?
Two
In the-
things, in the rec, on the rec stage.
Oh, okay. So not this coming Wednesday, but the following.
Yep. And it's not in the classroom this time, for those of you who attended the last one.
Yeah, because we have 5. So we were expecting 60 to 70 people.
Really?
We had 2 graduates and we had 30 people. So,
Okay,
That's a big deal. I mean,
yeah, that's huge.
you know, when these people might not have otherwise graduated, it's, yeah.
Note that I did not put on there, but, I meant to remind myself. So when, Amy Trembetti presented to you guys last time on SPEDCO and the special education, we talked about doing a work session to help you guys really understand it better. You guys said, yeah, let's wait until the new superintendent and all of that. We're like, well, we have some things we really want to go over. Well, with some additional losing another administrator, getting another new administrator coming on board this year. We, yes, agree with you that probably it makes a lot more sense to wait until August because we're down to really 2 buildings that still have their current administrators. And so we're going to push that back to August or September, whatever date we can, with all the new admin, new superintendent, we can work out. So we are still going to be working with the special ed interlocal and kind of refining exactly what we want to talk about in the work session, but we will talk about dates later. I think that's it, other than don't forget to get a chance to check out the links under examples of professional development. I don't know if you noticed that, I always try to have something showing, hey, good stuff happening. Jamie Clem brought it, our book study that we offer teachers every year. She did some really cool stuff. But keep scrolling clear for those. Yep, right there, those 2 links. So teachers to be able to move over from salary to application and impact, and did her application log, and then she presented. So check it out, it was really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Chromebooks.
Okay, so this one kind of took us by surprise here. You all had approved this same purchase
Right.
in December of 25, so just this past December. This is for elementary Chromebook replacements because the current device's operating system is timing out. So like Chromebooks last 10 years and then they time out and don't work with the programs that we need them to work with.
Isn't that convenient?
It is. So we had got that board approved and everything was situated, and then our tech director came up to me not too long ago and said they're not going to honor that purchase. And I'm like, are we talking about the purchase that was like a while ago? And he says, yeah. I said, what's going on? Well, apparently, I'm sure you've all heard about the data centers that are trying to spring up all across the country, and there's controversy around them. That's probably what you've heard about. But apparently, these data centers require so much RAM and hard drives, et cetera, that these companies have shifted off of certain products and put all their eggs into those data centers because I guess it's a profit grab. So then all of a sudden, something we had already issued a PO for and been board approved on, they've said, yeah, we're not going to honor that. And so essentially we had to go out to bid again, or we had to go out and get quotes again. And these are all on board approved or the state approved bid list here. So the new lowest cost is $138,800 for the same number of devices that you approved in December.
For how much is that?
So it's about a $35,000 increase.
And it's not with the same company, correct?
No, we've gone out to different companies through 2 trees in the bidding process. There were some that were more expensive than this cost. So at this point, we're coming back to you again with the request of purchasing those Chromebooks with the new cost of $138,800 for approval again.
I think we talked about this at one point, but we were reading about where education is going and all of the things, they're getting less technology, more paper pencil. Like, now with this coming up, should we be changing our focus to not having as many Chromebooks and just having a computer lab and going back to a more like traditional? I mean, do we need to be at least talking about that, or do we just pull the trigger?
I mean, we're doing all this
I think,
upgrade with our bond and, I mean,
This is elementary.
yeah.
this
but
is
that's
to
where it
replace the
starts. I mean,
but the ones from the elementary go to the middle school.
Right, it's,
Our last rotation is at the middle
Yes.
school because they just are rough on those devices. Yeah, so technically, yes, these go to the elementary, but they'll then also be the middle schools after that rotation. Yeah, I mean, I will tell you,
like, no, nothing other.
I think
They do it.
personally, I do see the pendulum start to swing back towards that. But you've now got AI going this way, and maybe we should stop doing technology as much going this way. I don't personally have the crystal ball to see where that's going to intersect. I think if we were to think about, do we want to start downshifting over time, that's a worthy conversation. But I don't think we are prepared to do that now because all those other devices are about to stop working. So I think my opinion is frustrating to see this increase, but to me, it's like, I think we probably aren't ready to not have those devices now. But if you fast forward over the next 5 years, I think over the next 2 to 3 years, that conversation is going to continue happening to the point I've talked to people, because we do cadres, things like that. We send people to reading cadres, math cadres. I've encouraged people to create a low tech, no tech cadre because I do think that's the direction it's probably going to go. But again, AI is going the other way. And technology is not going to stop being a profit driver. They're going to continue to push it commercially. So again, I don't feel like I've got a good enough grasp on that. I would like to see it go that way. Not entirely, because I think we've got to figure out how to find that balance. But, when we're looking at studies and things that are kind of coming out, talking about the way people learn more from listening to other humans and, that kind of thing. That's the direction it's probably going.
So we're in the middle of the bond, so do we be talking about a computer lab? Do we have room in buildings for a computer lab if it goes to that?
Like a traditional, keep a room as a computer lab all the time. We used to do mobile labs.
They use carts.
On carts.
Do these been do on carts? And that's way easier to bring the cart.
They move the carts to the
I
kids.
mean, the middle school's already having some of these unofficial conversations about how do they want to allocate technology? Do they want to kind of bring it into the different variations of lab settings? I think the challenge there is when you start counting classrooms and kids, and you've got to do it the right way, because if you just try to keep a class set in every classroom, you actually are going to need more Chromebooks to do that. So it can't be that, right? So they're actually having some interesting conversations there. But yeah, I'm unfortunately asking for approval on this with the recognition that the next time an adoption comes around, there may be more conversations about downshifting some of this.
So I guess I will make the motion to approve the Chromebooks as presented in the amount of $138,800.
Yeah, and again, this is going to be capital outlay, so this isn't operating dollars. But that's the fund we're looking at here.
Did you second, Angie?
Angie second.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor? Everybody? All right. District property.
District property, we're working with partners on acquiring some district property here south of the district office for some development opportunities. And I had planned to come to you for approval tonight, but the attorneys are still talking over the language. I honestly think it's pretty close. It's all about the technicalities of timelines and that kind of stuff, just to give the district as much flexibility as possible. But I think I'm gonna have to come back to you guys. I mean, the options are you could give me approval to kind of
Sign the
sign
contract.
documents myself, but I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just bring it back in.
Well, let's be
June.
honest.
I think potentially, you know, if there was some conversation about a special board meeting, we could entertain that. But at this point, with those attorneys, they just couldn't connect. It really wasn't a conflict. They just couldn't connect. And so I'm like, hey, you know, I need this information. We've got a board meeting tonight. And they're like, we're not there. So that's the situation on that. I don't know if you have any questions on it, but I think at this point, I just am not prepared to ask for approval on anything yet.
So we'll just table
We'll just
that.
table it. Okay. Superintendent
Yep,
report.
bond equipment and furniture. They talked a little bit about the FF&E earlier today. I've been the squeaky wheel on that because I just want to make sure that their budget for that is appropriate. Because ideally, I would like for us to be able to have some money at the end of that to then put back into the bond payoff fund. That would be ideal. And I think it could happen, but it's a balance of keeping on top of, okay, what furniture do we need? And one of the challenges that I'm trying to work on this next month is, like, I'm not going to be able to get all the furniture situated because the high school phases in the way that it does over multiple phases. It's really difficult to figure out all the furniture needs at one time. And so I'm going to walk the high school with the furniture guy, and somehow I became the furniture person. And that's frustrating because I'm like, man, I don't have time. But they're like, well, you know, the superintendent Pratt, that's what he did. And I'm like, well, so what?
Good for them.
Anyways, I'll stop with that. So I'm working with the furniture person, and he knows our district very well. He sold furniture to our district for a long time. And so ultimately we're trying to figure out, how do we phase in the furniture over time? We're also looking at CTE equipment, right? So I'm still collecting some quotes. I hopefully can bring back some bids to you guys next time for the robotic arms. That the robotic arms are for the robotics program, and those are the ones that we've worked with WSU Tech on to figure out what model. So we found a vendor for them. They're happy to sell them to us, but we have to bid it, even though there's only one product. It's like if you bought an iPhone. Well, you can buy an iPhone from T-Mobile or Verizon, but you're still buying an iPhone kind of a thing. And it's frustrating that we have to jump through those hoops, but it appears we do. So we're going to try to get that situated. We're looking at the heavy machinery simulators and trying to get that situated. I've got a quote from the Caterpillar group, and then we've got another SimLab group giving me a quote to try to get that stuff situated. So I'm trying to work on some of those things before the end of June.
Before you leave us.
Yeah. So that's the plan there. My ultimate goal there is to essentially get the prices situated on those big item CTE dollars to where we make sure that at the end of the bond, we don't say, wait a minute, we didn't know about that cost.
Well, that's
I want
what
to get
happened last
those
time.
situated.
Not enough furniture for what we needed after everything was done, and I don't want that to happen either.
The furniture thing, it's like they don't seem to budget.
They didn't, and I don't know why, but last time it was the same. I mean, just didn't think about it.
No, they've thought about it. I just told them.
Buildings with no furniture.
I said, I don't think you budgeted enough. And like, oh, I think we're okay. And so I'm still pushing on that pretty hard. They've heard me talk about furniture a lot and FF&E a lot. They've heard me talk about deferred maintenance a lot. So I would encourage you to keep pushing those topics as well. So that's that conversation. I hope to bring some things back to you in June if we can get some bids out. Two-way communication's the next topic if you're ready, or if you had other
Yep.
questions. So two-way communication and cell phone law came down from the state legislature. You know, this is one of those ones where it's a little bit conflicted for me because it should have been local control. But at the same time, less cell phones in the classroom is better. And we at the middle school have already done away for the day. That really does work pretty well. I mean, there's nothing perfect, just like you guys. I mean, your cell phone calls your name all the time. You may be in a meeting, but I think it works pretty well at the middle school.
And I think they've gotten used to it too, where when they get to the high school, it's gonna be much easier for them not to use
Yeah,
it.
I think so. The high school previously had kind of straddled well, they're almost adults, they're not middle schoolers. We're going to do bell to bell, no cell, which is where they could have their cell phones in hallways and at lunch. The high school administration felt like that was a middle ground, but now this takes that away. So now it's literally Kansas law that can't happen. I have no problem with that personally. But I don't want to get too comfortable with the state legislature taking away your authority. In this case, I don't have a problem necessarily with that element of it, but anyway, so that we're going to go bell to bell, no cell. No, we're going to go away for the day at the high school as well, which means and the thing that's confusing a little bit is the legislature uses the term bell to bell, but they're talking about the first bell to the last bell. We were bell to bell, no cell, meaning, each individual classroom. Anyways, that I think is going to be fine. Who's going to police that? I have no idea. We are going to have to work with staff to try to have some level of continuity across the buildings and whatnot. It's really not a major problem at the elementary school. Do elementary kids have cell phones? Yes, easier to manage. So that's the thing there.
They're not quite as sneaky with them yet. They just have to be in their backpack or not out
They
of it.
can't be in their backpack.
They can bring them to school.
But
They
okay.
just can't use them.
Don't think be in their backpack in the classroom. Is that not?
Well, I mean, I
I
don't,
think if they're off,
I think it's going to be very difficult. I mean, that sounds great. That sounds great.
yeah.
But who in the world is going to know if there's a cell phone?
Don't that you have
Yeah, so those are expensive.
and that's a.
So when we went bell to bell, no cell,
But then that puts them back in our hands to take care of them.
I
well,
just knew a lot of schools were doing it, so I just didn't know how that worked and if that was what.
what we did was when we went bell to bell, no cell, I was looking into those, they're called Yonder pouches, and there's another, I found a different brand out of Australia. And they're not licensed in the United States, and the whole thing was kind of a strange thing to try to get them purchased. But I purchased some for the high school as a kind of a test model, right? They're like a knockoff brand or whatever. They're not perfect because kids can get into them. They can break the bags. They're not perfect. But when we quoted the Yonder bags, it was like $25,000 or something like that. And then you're losing bags, replacing bags, damaging bags.
And is it one cell phone per bag, right?
One cell phone per
Yeah,
bag.
That's a
And then
big-
there's just, the high school has also looked into, like little carts. I think that's a better way to go. Like if necessary, if there's an issue, a disciplinary issue, you've been warned and this happened, then you're gonna have to put yours in this locked cart in the office. It won't hold everybody's cell phone, but then you're only talking about that, 5% of kids who just won't be compliant or whatever. It's already a battle that we already have to fight. But the cell phone, away for the day model is what we'll do next year, and it works pretty well.
Once it's implemented, once they have it in their hand in passing periods, it's hard to put them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's away all day.
I remember when the kids had the buttons on their phones and they could sit in there and they put them in their hoodies pockets and text all day without ever looking at their screens because they didn't have the,
P9.
yeah, they could tell what they were touching because it wasn't a flat screen.
Well, this also includes smartwatches, which is another very difficult thing to police, earbuds, which earbuds drive me crazy. I mean, when I see an earbud in the high school, I'm like, get that thing out of your ear.
No, it did watches too. You what?
Well-
Oh, yeah, we have to send the headphones.
Well, I'm talking about the person who's just listening to music because like it's not a part of the lesson, but there's one single earbud in the ear.
Cody's-
Okay.
I think it's mine.
So the other item that is maybe didn't get as much publicity in the news was the two-way communication part. So, you've probably seen some of that stuff in Friday Notes or other places, but now, and really you think about coaches, it's the trickiest with coaches because coaches are trying to communicate all the time, on and off hours and whatever else. So when a coach says, practice time is this, or don't forget to bring your equipment or whatever, a lot of times they're using Remind 101 or GroupMe or those other apps. I think this became a conversation that got tied to this. And I don't know if it was just like, I've got too many apps that I've got to deal with at my kid's school. And then it came to this conversation, but there's also obviously just professional conversations with staff members where we don't want our staff members having the direct cell phone numbers of minors. So I think that was part of the conversation as well. So basically what this law requires is that the district has to have a district managed app for two-way communication with students. And that's specific to two-way communication and with students. Okay. This does not include if you want to talk to a parent or if you can still email. Okay. But what we can't do is we can't have coaches using Remind anymore. We can't have coaches text messaging students anymore. They have to use a district app that has district oversight so that if we need to, we can go in and pull records. Okay. No problem with that. It's just that everybody's kind of used to the app that they use. So the coaches who use Remind because they like it. So then to have to shift off of that, it's a little bit cumbersome and there'll be some moaning and groaning, and I understand it. We have Parent Square. Okay, that's what we have for our mass communication. We shifted off of School Messenger, transitioned into Parent Square around January. So that worked out for us. There are other districts who are like starting from scratch and having to now research what products they can do for
So
this.
Parent Square works for what we need it to work for.
So we're going to have a training with principals tomorrow. Our tech department's going to train them. I've already done a sort of a dry run on it. It's similar to like a Remind where a coach is going to be able to send out a link or a QR code, and then people can sign up for their team. And then they have a couple options. They can do a direct message to an individual person, or they can do a group message to like the whole team or the parents or whatever. So that, and the kids can do that as well. So like if a kid has something that they don't want to send to everybody, like, some health issue or something, they can just send a message to the coach. Coaches and teachers. I keep saying coaches right now because I'm thinking about summer camps and all that kind of stuff. But teachers, this would be the same for teachers. If teachers are doing two-way communication, we'll have to do that. We'll probably get that training done in August. The coaches and the admin are the priority right now because summer camps and things are coming up. And this law goes into place July 1, even though I don't think they're expecting true compliance until like September. And then even after that, I don't know who's monitoring it. But if you get into a situation where somebody's texting a kid, that's a problem.
Now, does this parent, whatever you called it,
Parent Square.
Does it have the ability, if we have a problem with a teacher or a coach, we can shut off their communication immediately?
Yeah, we
They can't communicate with the kids anymore until we figure out what's going on.
That we would have total control over whoever the users are. So there are other districts who use the Parent Square app and have used it a little longer than us, and they've gone through the growing pains of pushing this out to coaches. So we've contacted them and said, what would you not do? Because they were trying to basically load everything through the back end of the system. So like get who's on your list, and then like the tech department would load it. And I said, no, let's try the links and the QR codes and do it that way. And then people can add themselves and whatnot. So the app itself, because it's more robust, we use it for email systems and phone calls and everything else. It's not as streamlined as like a single purpose Remind 1.0 or Remind app. But it'll do the trick. And then over time, this conversation probably evolves, but we should be able to be compliant. We should be able to make sure that people are still appropriately in contact with people they need to talk to. And we'll start with that training tomorrow with principals, and then we'll come up with a plan to get coaches situated for summer, and then we'll roll it out to teachers.
Okay.
It sounds easy, and it's not, because this is going to be one of those apps that now that Kansas has this law, there's going to be other app companies that are going to push into Kansas and say, well, ours is better, and maybe it is. And then Is Parent Square the thing we're gonna have in 3 years? I don't know. But that's where we have to be in order to comply with that law.
Okay. Executive session, Doug.
Madam President, I move that we go into executive session to discuss personnel item. How long do we need?
15 minutes, maybe?
Okay.
Do
So
we need a break first, guys? Yeah.
8:56?
Let's just return at 9 o'clock. Is that
Yeah.
all right?
Then we're gonna have a short break first.
Okay, then we'll return at
Okay.
9 p.m.
A second.
That's my motion. How about a second?
Okay, all in favor? Everybody. All right.
first, right, before I make the motion to adjourn.
Yeah, please don't make that yet. Okay, reminders. Amy, you've already said you can't be at graduation. Anybody else can't be? Is everybody else planning on being at graduation Sunday? Okay, and then Wednesday at SBA, if you can make it to that one also, just as important. You'll still be gone. Okay, that's fine, as long as we know the set of chairs for that. Okay, and then it doesn't say on here, but we need to meet in the library at the high school at 1:30. Okay, all right,
We're
other-
watching the weather like we do every year.
Yes, we've already had calls wanting to know if it's inside or outside. We don't know yet. Amy, do you have any other? No. Brent, do you have anything other? Okay. Angie? Nope. Kim?
Bandorama is this week.
Oh, yeah, Bandorama. That's Wednesday
Baccalaureate.
or Thursday? Thursday.
Thursday.
Thursday. Baccalaureate Sunday. No,
Baccalaureate
Sunday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Rest is Sunday. Okay,
No, and I would like to make the motion that we adjourn the.
okay, all in favor? I guess second.